The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? MESS. Mess. That pretty much describes long-forsaken racist evangelical step-parents, a theme after Amber and Scott watched The Front Room. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
MESS, mess.
That's what I was going to use if you let me start.
Well, it feels appropriate.
Yeah, so this episode we are talking about The Front Room, and our synopsis here is really short, but I think it says everything. Belinda's mother-in-law moves in and proves to be a house guest from hell.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, so as far as this movie goes, I guess the phrase that comes to mind is, well, that happened. I can't say it was a good movie. I can't say it was a bad movie. If given the option of a time machine, I'd probably take my 1 hour and 40 minutes back.
Oh, I actually thought it was it was a decent movie with characters who were not particularly the best characters.
Yeah, there was a lot of stupidity here. And the people who we should be rooting for, I actually didn't like very much because they were just dumb.
Yeah, I wasn't really rooting for anyone here. I'll tell you this. You talk about what would you do, and I'm practicing what I preach. And this movie reminded me why I keep cameras up that cover virtually every corner of my home, because it might be extremely important that you could maybe prove that you didn't hit someone, or prove that somebody bit your baby, or prove one of a billion other things. Yeah.
And for those who did not see the film, MESS, mess, pertains to just the mother-in-law pooping. She poops sometimes. She's old. It happens. Like, I'm just not going to get worked up about that because it ages, and we're all going to MESS. It's just the truth.
I get it, but she pooped aggressively.
She pooped as a weapon.
She weaponized shitting.
Okay, so for those who are not familiar with The Front Room and haven't seen it, basically we have a couple, and the guy says his dad's dying, and he doesn't want to go seeing his dad, and he does not have a good relationship with his stepmom. And
that's putting it lightly.
Yeah. So ultimately the dad dies, and they go to the funeral, and the stepmom basically says, I've sold the house. I'm going to give you all the money, but I want to come live with you. And the woman, what was her name? What was Brandy's name? Oh gosh. Okay. Sorry guys. We're not up on our research here. Anyway, that's how compelling these people were. I don't even know their names. So she's Belinda. How could I forget that? Oh Belinda. My gosh, the woman said her name a million times, but she said Belinda. Anyway, so Belinda just kind of threw a little bit of a fit and quit her job, and they don't have any money and they're stressed out. So she says, honey, I know you don't like this woman, and she made your life a living hell as a child, but I think she should come and live with us because look at all the money. Okay, she didn't exactly say it that way, but she pretty much said it that way.
That's pretty much what she said.
Yeah. So the woman moves into their house. It's not going well. And then Belinda bitches about it all the time. And, okay, yes, being a caregiver is hard because the woman, God, what was her name? I'm sorry. I'm not prepared here. I think what was her name? Do some research here where I'm talking. Anyway, so Belinda is upset that she's having to care for the stepmom. And listen, caregiving is difficult when you love somebody. It's hard. It's messy. It's demanding. It's tiring. It's all of those things. If you don't like the person, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. However, Belinda is the one who made this situation a reality because her husband didn't want anything to do with the stepmom. The husband expressed concerns over what having the stepmom in the house would do and was against it. So
Solange and Norman.
Thank you. So Solange is the mother or the stepmother, and Norman is the husband. Thank you for that. So anyway, I've been chatting here. So what would you do if you were Norman and your wife said, "Hey, we just need to have her live with us and she can pay for all of our stuff and pay off our house and we get all this money and we need it."
So he's an attorney, so he's not dumb.
Actually, he kind of was. He got dumber as the movie progressed.
Yeah, well, it kind of boils down to that if one person knows their family and the other one doesn't, you go with the person who knows their family. Don't be like, "Oh, are they really that bad?" Let me tell you, anytime somebody ever says, "Are they really that bad?" about family, when somebody has basically been like, "Yeah, they're really that bad," and then they question it, it always rubs me the wrong way. Like, how would you know? Because I lived it.
That's a really good point, because even if that person is exaggerating, it's still how they feel. So even if someone else might gauge it as saying, "Oh, that wasn't terrible," or "That wasn't that bad," or "Why'd you make such a big deal about that?" If that person feels that way, that it was a big deal, that it was impactful, that it was negative, that it was hard, that it was anything negative, I think their feelings in that case should be valued and appreciated because that's how they feel.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think if that were a situation and it's you and I, if it's one of our family members and we're just like, "Yeah, I see all the facts, but I think this is a no," then whoever's family, if it's the person whose family it is says it's a no, then it really should be a no. Now, if the person whose family it's not says it's a no, but the person whose family it is says, "Hang on, I think we should," that's maybe a different story depending on how well the non-relative knows that person.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables that can come into play here. The thing that annoyed me about Belinda is she made this situation happen and then very quickly became disgruntled about the situation. And I think the moment that I started feeling differently about Belinda, the woman, the couple,
I know exactly what moment I did.
is she had an encounter with Solange, the stepmom, and the stepmom's older. Like, she had an incontinence issue. She had peed on the couch. And Belinda was like, oh, we've got to deal with this. So at dinner, she says, basically, "I think we should have a family meeting."
Okay, well, in fairness, I am going to say, in fairness, it did get brought up by her husband saying, "I smell something musty," i.e.
Oh, yes.
So he smelled something that did precipitate that being
it wasn't
the
out of the
conversation.
blue. Yes.
But I don't even care that it's at dinner. Solange had made her swear that she wouldn't tell her husband. Well, let me tell you, for the most part, in 99% of the situations, if you make me swear to not tell my wife something, the only thing I'm swearing is to not tell you that I told my wife that. Like, really, unless it's like a surprise present or something like that. No, all I'm doing is swearing to not tell you that I did tell my wife that. So
I think it was perfectly reasonable for Solange to be embarrassed over what had happened and wanted to keep it between her and the other gal in the house, because it's embarrassing and she didn't want it discussed with the guy that was her stepson. So Belinda brings this up, you're right, after Norman says, I smell something musty, and says, "I think we should have a family meeting." She's incontinent.
Yeah, that was...
OMG, what the heck?
That was stupid as hell. Now, listen, again, like I just said, I've got no problem with Belinda telling Norman in private so that Solange doesn't know that she said, and then she tells Norman, "I wasn't supposed to tell you this, so if you ever learn it, it's not because I told you." Wink, wink, wink.
And since what we do here is what would you do, what I would do in that situation if I was Belinda is I'd promptly march myself down to the market, pick up some adult diapers, give them to Solange, And maybe as a passing comment, my husband saying, hey, we're having some issues. I bought some adult diapers. If you see that she runs out, go to the store and help me fill the gap and make sure that we have the supplies that she needs. And that's the end of the story. Give someone some respect and
Listen,
that was just so tacky and rude. So anything that happened to Belinda after that, honestly, I didn't care about because I just thought that was just tacky and rude and thoughtless and unkind.
Listen, there were just no good characters. Like, I was rooting against everyone.
That's true. I was too. And maybe that's the mental block of why I couldn't remember anybody's name.
Like, I really was rooting against everyone. Yeah, I mean, I admit. So I don't know if I quite hold the opinion of anything that happens after that is on her, but I will say that she certainly took a large step, Belinda did, in publicly ruining that relationship.
What do you mean?
By calling the family meeting.
Oh, yeah. We
Like,
need to have a
again, I've
family
got no
meeting
problem.
about an aging person's incontinence. That's just freaking rude.
Now, in fairness, I don't know how much she was weaponizing her feces or not, because
MESS.
she certainly made it seem like she was doing this intentionally at a certain point. So maybe she doesn't do it intentionally, but it does appear as though she might be at a level of incontinence that
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Like,
this is what we're talking about.
you were not going to hide this for that long.
That's true. And in fairness, they did have some sort of vinyl or leather couch, so it didn't even soak into the fabric. However, that said, the problem I had with this film and talking about the house guest from hell is, yes, Solange was very religious in a home that was not religious. She made a deal with Norman, the husband, that she would refurnish their home with her old furnishings if she was allowed to bring over her prayer group, who proceeded to speak in tongues when Belinda came home with the baby and freaked her out. But beyond a couple of things like that, basically this is an aging woman who is having physical decline, like all of us will. And I just can't get behind of like, this is a house guest from hell because she's incontinent or the room smells or things like that. Yes, she was very weird and unsettling, but Norman told Belinda that before Belinda invited this woman into her home.
Yeah, no, she was the house guest from hell, incontinence aside. Like, when you know that two people aren't religious and you're super religious and you bring all of that with you into the house, and that's the thing too.
But she knew, and that's the issue I have is like, listen, if you have that information and you still see the dollar signs and you say, we should invite this woman into our home, you either need to quickly realize you have made a mistake and need to make other arrangements, or you just need to suck it up and realize, like, I brought this on myself because I sold my sanity for a price.
Yeah, admit you can be bought. You were purchased.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. And you have to expect in a situation like that, like, basically let it known right up front here, my money and everything comes with it as a price, and the price is you're taking care of me. So don't be surprised if I lord that money over you later.
Which actually she didn't. Solange never lorded the money over there.
She did near the end. You're trying to kick me out of my house?
You know, I actually heard that, but I don't know if she meant it that way. I mean, that was where she lived. It was her house. I mean, any place you're staying is your house.
Yeah, no, because she had paid off the mortgage.
But
she had brought in all her own furnishings. She had basically turned their house into her house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how she meant it. It could be taken either way.
Just understand that just because Belinda did one admittedly incredibly tacky thing does not give Solange a free pass from there forward to do whatever.
I think Solange could just poop wherever she wants when someone says that. It's a free license to poop.
Well, and let me tell you, she used that license liberally.
Yes, Solange was not someone who Norman enjoyed as a kid, who he actively disliked, and yet let his wife bring this woman into their home. And then he's working. She's not. She's pregnant, and she quit her job, and she's around the house, and she's upset that she's having to care for Solange which on one hand I get, but on the other hand, you invited this woman into your house knowing you were pregnant and knowing you didn't have a job.
I agree. I agree with all that. I am going to remind you about the scene when Solange corners Belinda in the living room.
Oh.
And then throws herself on the floor against
a table.
the table to make it look like Belinda punched her.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then told everyone that Belinda punched her.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. No, that's definitely house guest from hell stuff. I mean, anytime you try and get someone in trouble for elder abuse, that is very serious. Yeah. That was bad.
And
I
that
agree with you.
And that is the reason why any of the places in the home that don't have a camera, that aren't a bathroom, if the cameras aren't currently working, we're going to make them work, because
I'm just going to start pooping everywhere.
that's
Pooping as a weapon. Want to know what my lesson is from this movie? Is to weaponize my feces. If I'm unhappy, if I don't get my way, I'm just going to poop and then I'm going to smile like Solange.
I have no words.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.